In this video, we're going to talk about all those RBA increases, how much that's affect your borrowing power, and some hacks to get more money from these banks in 2023. So first things first, Cathie, let's talk about how much has your people's borrowing capacity changed since the banks have started putting up the interest rates?
I would say probably in the last 12 months or so, it has decreased people's borrowing capacity by around $250,000 since the beginning of the interest rate rises, obviously increased assessment rate rises.
So how that works is the banks have got, you said assessment rate. I was writing loans not so long ago at 1.99%. And the assessment rate was 1.99 plus 3. So the assessment rate was 5. So the bank had to work out if you could afford a 5% interest rate. Well, now, Cathie, rates are 5%. The assessment rate must be what? 8.
Correct.
So that's a very high assessment rate. What that means is when a bank gives you a loan, even if the rate's 5, they've got to make sure you can afford it at 8. That's why the borrowing capacity has changed to 250 grand. Now let's talk about how these guys can borrow more money from the banks. Now, this is not dodgy. This is not illegal. This is just the truth. This is how you can borrow more money from the banks here.
I think probably one of the biggest ones that we see a lot of the time is a lot of people have credit cards. Doesn't matter if you never spend on that credit card, you just opened up a $20,000 credit card limit just for the sake of getting some bonus points from Qantas or whoever it's through.
Everyone loves them.
Yeah, that's it. But however, even though you don't spend on that credit card or you pay it off every month, the bank's actually going to assess you on that $20,000 limit, even if you've got $500 owing. So most of the time when people need to sort of increase their borrowing capacity by a little bit, we generally recommend if you're not using that credit card, just close it right down, get rid of it, you don't need it. Or even decreasing that limit will help you dramatically when it comes to your borrowing capacity.
Thank you, Cathie. Credit card, low-hanging fruit, great hack. Second hack is HEX. Now, HEX becomes a really big liability for people when they start earning more income. When they're on low income, I think it's under 50 grand, they don't even pay you back yet. But when that income starts going up, for argument's sake, if you're on 120 grand a year, you're paying 12 grand a year in HEX. $1,000 a month comes off your borrowing power. So for a lot of customers come to me with a good deposit and they're sort of trapped at this purchase amount or this loan amount, and I look at the overall situation, I say, if we get rid of the HEX, which is only 10 grand owing, I can give you an extra 200 grand. It's a cracker. So that's why it's smart for a good broker to look at the whole situation. What's another tip?
I also find another really big thing that a lot of us are guilty of, myself included, especially given the time of year it is spending on too many discretionary expenses, dining out, buying clothes that we obviously really didn't need to buy, but hey, they're on sale.
And I keep going, but my wife always says she's saving me money when it's on sale. I'm saying, it's not, I don't understand.
So, of course, the more we spend can actually decrease our borrowing capacity. So the way the banks sort of look at how much we spend is they work off a household expenditure measure. That means, let's say there's 2 people earning $150,000 a year combined. There should be a set amount from the bank that they think we should be spending. Let's just call it 3 grand a month. If, however, we've got a shopping addiction, myself, maybe your wife as well, and we're spending, an extra $2,000 a month on clothing, the bank's actually going to use that against you and your borrowing capacity. So my biggest tip there is if you really want to buy a house, really try and curb that spending on clothing, personal care and dining out. We don't need to be doing it as much as we are.
Question for you, Cathie.
Yeah.
How far back is the bank's going to look on my bad spending habit?
Well, that's the thing. So if you're with the bank already, they've got unlimited power. They can see everything from when you first opened up those accounts. So
Some of them have since kids, Dolomites.
Yeah, correct, which most people have been. So we do need to be careful. However, if you go with a different bank, then they're only going to look at 3 months of your transaction listings. But my biggest advice is even if you end up going with a bank that you've been with since, like you said, Dolomites, just make sure that you do try and curb that spending leading up to you buying a property.
Another really good tip, which a lot of the staff here at MAD have actually done, is they were really keen to start their property journey. They really wanted to build a portfolio for themselves, but they just had it really good at home. You know what I'm talking about. So what these guys did was they rent vested, but they didn't rent because they're living at home. They bought an investment property and they continued living at home. I mean, that greatly increased their borrowing power because obviously at home they're getting free food, free Netflix, free Foxtel, all utilities paid for. So that is a great way to get more money from these banks, is rent vesting, or of course living at home and buying. That's a great tip. If you want to build your property portfolio and you're watching this and you're at home and you've got a job and you've got some savings, that is a great way to get more money from a bank. So another tip, Cathie, you only said this to me the other day. Someone rang and they wanted to buy, but they asked you, do you think it'll be an issue if I buy a car and get a car loan first? What did you say?
This person was a first home buyer, so they really wanted to get their foot in the property market. And as George just said, they said they also want to buy a new car. How much is that going to impact them? Well, the truth of the matter is, it's going to impact your borrowing capacity substantially. People don't realize how much monthly repayments are when it comes to getting a car loan. It's very similar to HECS as well. You know, if you have $800 or $900 a month coming out in your car loan, that's going to reduce your borrowing capacity tenfold.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, correct. So, you know, we always recommend, one, if you do want to buy a new car and you want to buy a home, please talk to us first so we can work out what the difference would be if you needed to go ahead and get that car. And secondly, as George said before with the HECS, you know, sometimes if you've only got $10,000 or so remaining, sometimes it's better to just clear it and start fresh without having those car loan repayments. So always double check with us first.
And that's just some great, honest advice. Look, we all want a new car, but at the end of the day, if you haven't got a house and that's your top priority, having the ability to speak to a broker and know, wow, I can afford 600 grand to go buy a house and I'll get a loan from a bank. But if I buy a car first, that's now $350,000. I can't buy nothing with that. So it does help our customers make a good informed decision just by running the numbers. So like you said, if anyone's watching this and they want to buy their first house and they're not sure about buying a car first or all the different things, like they may have some credit cards, they may have some HECS, they may have a car loan, they might have everything. We can show the people, if they don't change anything, what they can afford from a bank. And if we make some changes, if we were to close that credit card and pay out that car loan and reduce that HECS, how much it would look like, and they may go, you know what, I'm going to do that because I want to buy a house. I think knowledge is everything, and I think thank you for that information. I think that'll be good information for people watching this video.